Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Airway Sim. Today, I wanted to talk about cargo and cargo in general in this game because, as you know, it's my favorite thing. Every single world I join, I just fly cargo and I have a great time. Um, One of my next goals in this game is actually going to be to run a fully passenger airline, but that is a different story because today I'm just going to be talking about cargo, all things cargo, and mostly how to expand extremely quickly as a cargo flying airline. Now, I started this game last episode, and whenever you start cargo, um, the most important thing to do is to find a good, profitable route as your first one, because your first couple routes will get a little bit of free route image. Now, basically, what you're looking for is open cargo demand. Now, there's very little in Birmingham, but what I did manage to find was a route like this, Chengdu. What happened when I opened this route is Lumbago Airways was flying a single A300, which caused the current demand to climb to about 100,000. Um, I simply added my 757 flight and it became immediately profitable flying on this open current demand. Well, it's obviously not open anymore after my supply, but if you can imagine without it, there would have been all this open current demand. Now, there's very little open current demand if you take a look at most airports. And that's because most of the demand is being split among all the incredible number of airports in the London, Birmingham, and Manchester area. As you can see, every single one of these little airports is going to have a little bit of the demand. So somebody has to pull it to a certain airport, and you simply do that by adding supply. Demand will automatically move to wherever there's the most supply, and it's based on the ratio of supply too. So if there's two players supplying 100,000 kilograms of cargo per day each to two different cities, the demand will split 50-50 between those two cities, roughly speaking. There's other variables which affect it, but we don't have to talk about that yet. Um, so, going back on what I said about how important it is to find a profitable base, um, and as you can see, these three aircraft were designated to flying on my profitable routes initially. Your first two routes are given free, high amounts of free route image, and I simply use these routes um, to be the starting point to my profits, basically. Cargo is disproportionately picky about high route image, so you really need to take advantage of your free high route image routes to become immediately profitable and start pumping out the cash for you. Simply set the price to 104 or 105% and don't touch it until it reaches 100 route image, and that's about as much money as you can make from the route. As you guys can see here, those first three routes planes supplied me with enough money to keep me going to make an entire loss-making week of aircraft. So 7 entire aircraft all making basically losses, um, and that was all basically powered by these three profitable aircraft. Now, what I'm doing here is, as you can see, um, for the fastest expansion in a cargo aircraft, is you want to spread out your flights. Now, the reason you want to do this, and you don't want to concentrate all your flights onto certain routes, besides those first starting routes with a free route image, is zero cargo routes receive very low load factors. As you guys can see here, take a look at this route. Pensacola, Birmingham to Pensacola. There's 100,000 kilograms of demand and 50,000 kilograms of supply. And despite this, with 28 route image, my load factor is 40%. That is abysmal. That means at 30 route image, which is already a couple in real life days of waiting, I'm able to pull a measly, um, what is that, 40% of the demand available, um, which is no, not even 40%, 20% of the demand available, because my plane is, of course, only half the size of the demand. It's not very good at all. So, what do we do in this situation? Well, basically, when you have low route image, no matter what you do, you'll only be able to get a certain amount of the demand. At zero route image, it's like 1 or 2% of the total demand. Basically nothing. Uh, Once you get to about 10 or 15 route images where things start to get interesting. It's because you can pull a decent amount of the route image, and throughout your entire journey from about 20 to 60 or so route image, um, you're never going to be able to pull much more than 30% of the demand. This means you don't want to fill the demand to maximum. I want to add another flight to this when the route image gets to about 50 or 60, because then I'll actually be able to grab most of the demand. Um, but even so, it's probably more advisable to start pulling demand to a wide network of airports and start, for lack of a better term, scouting which airports um, do and do not have open demand. Now, what I really want to do is I kind of want to scout North America right now. The reason I want to scout North America is this is where the biggest potential demand pools lie, and I'm not really sure which airports from Birmingham to North America have not really been fully utilized. Um, I can always go into the deeper pages, but I don't want to do that because the total demand pools are smaller the deeper in the pages you go. Um, so instead, what I want to do is some of these earlier routes on the earlier pages, say pages 2 to 3 on America, aren't actually being very well supplied. One way to do this is to find the largest cargo carrier in a competing airport. So London Heathrow is an airport competing with me, and I found that Clear Sky is the biggest cargo carrier with almost 90,000 kilograms a week, but it's starting to drop. 9,000 tons. I mean, my bad. So what I would do here is I would take a look at this guy's route network map and just take a look at the amount, ratio of supply and demand on a lot of the routes he's serving if my internet decides it wants to go ahead and load. This is actually quite strange. My internet rarely lags. Let me see if Steam might be downloading something. If I close that, see if it's going to load. Could be the Airway Sim servers as well, which would be awfully inconvenient. Alright, apparently it could be the Airway Sim server, so let's try and do some route planning here. If that doesn't work, we'll have to cut the video, and yeah, that's going to be unfortunate. But let's take some random route, for example, Indianapolis. Alright, it seems to be loading fine, so I don't think it's the Airway Sim server. It could just be this route map is being bugged. That definitely looks like it could be the case. Well, unfortunately, we're not doing that. Let's see if another airline's route image map is working. K-Air. K-Air is a decent player as well. He's flying less cargo, though, but he's rapidly climbing, so he's probably adding cargo flights. And London is an enormous free cargo hub. And what I mean by that is there's an enormous amount of unserved cargo, but there's no slots for it. So, yeah, let's take a look at this. I was looking at Indianapolis, right? So you just go ahead and take a look at this. What do we see here? Indianapolis, the amount of current demand and supply is the same. We don't really want to mess with this because if we try and pull demand to Birmingham like this, we're going to get slightly less current demand than the amount we supply, and that's not what we want for our first routes. For our first routes, we want to get more demand back than what we supply, which is not a common occurrence, but it's definitely possible if you find the correct routes, which are usually less well known. For example, if we supply to this route, we're going to get more demand than what we supply, but the total is not very good. It's obviously a completely viable option for a 757, but I want to set myself up for a rapid expansion. Here's my plan. So, I have recently been experimenting with greater than 3 amounts of fleets. My plan is currently 767, as it's a perfect mid-ground aircraft. It's never the most efficient, but it's never the least efficient. It's just good, it's there, and it's available on the used market, which is why I have 10. I could easily move away from it if need be, but given that it's likely going to be in my fleet forever, it's not going to be a big deal. What I do plan on is maximizing 757s and 777 freighters. 777 freighters are really the key because they're the best freighters in the entire game. Um, if it turns out that my demand numbers are just so nuts and so high that I don't need a mid-sized freighter like the 767, I can ditch it for 747 freighters to pull massive amounts of demand away from London. But given that Birmingham is ultimately limited in its scope of how much demand it can have, that's kind of going to be unlikely. Um, Unlikely that I'm going to ever manage to need such a large aircraft. Look at this amount of cargo demand, and people are flying with MD-11s. Yeah, I can't wait to get my grubby little fingers on these demand pools. I mean, look at this. Incredible numbers here. what is that? 400,000 potential. Like I could easily add multiple flights of 747s on that, which is incredible. But if we take a look at this, Will Rogers World, this is the kind of route I'm looking for. Huge demand and only a small amount of it filled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 757 to prod the demand. So I'm going to see about how much I can pull to Birmingham, which I already know the answer because I'm pretty experienced with cargo, but it's going to be a good amount, probably double the amount. If I supply 10,000, I'll get 20,000 current demand, and then I can add a large 747 or 6767 freighter to that. Um, yeah, right now on the used market, the only planes available are 757, so that's what we have to work with. Um, so the kind of routes we want to make are going to be the ones with large demand pools, and we're basically just using the 757s in Birmingham, not because I think it's the best aircraft for these kind of routes. The main purpose of the 757 here is going to be to access the level 2 airports. So if we take a look at airports with level 2 infrastructure in the United States, there are a ton. And there's a ton across the entire world we're eventually going to need to serve, especially in India. Um, like some of these routes would be simply unservable without the 757, and um, the demand pools are surprisingly small, but some of them are good. Like that's a good route right there. Um, and yeah, it bothers me immensely whenever there's routes which are like level 2 or level 1, which I just can't reach with any other aircraft. And like, look at this Sioux Gateway, 100,000 kilograms of potential. I could probably find a level 3 airport in the vicinity. Um, no, not the case. It's a completely isolated airport. So yeah, that'd be 100,000 kilograms. That'd be inaccessible without the 757. So that's why I'm flying it in this world. In most worlds, you'll be flying it because it's the most efficient aircraft, um, which can cross oceans. And because the demand is not so high, but this is the modern times, so you start modern, the demand's only going to grow bigger. Um, so yeah, with that in mind, let's not bother about 757's like main purpose in my airline right now. I'm just using them to, well, I'm just using them because it's the only aircraft I have available. It's basically that simple. If I had anything bigger, I'd be using them. But if we take a look at the used market for cargo, and we update this and we say size class equals um, cargo only, it's between that and 747s, which are a bit too big for me right now, because right now I'm just setting up the route image. I'm just trying to get my route image higher, and I'm not trying to, like, if I fly 747 to get route image to increase, it's gonna severely slow down the speed at which I can expand because each one is gonna be losing such an immense amount of money. Oh, there's more 757s on the market, but I'll complete a schedule of seven. It's rare to see 767s on the market like this, but 757s are just as valuable, I guess. Let me see how many there are available. 65. Yeah, so that kind of makes them, with only 65 available, that kind of makes them quite exclusive. So I feel like I should grab my 767s whenever possible, which would be now. But then that'll delay my 757 completion, and that's fine with me. Slots are so cheap; they cost nearly nothing to buy, kind of whenever you need them. So that's kind of nice. So these are 140 million though. That's costly. You know what? I think I'd rather lease cheap 757s, which honestly these are cheap 757s at what's it called, 60 million, or what is this? It's like 70 million. Like that's not expensive. That's half the price of the 767s, and they only carry a little bit less cargo. So I think I'll buy these cheap. D-check in a long time too, and we can just do short leases because I'm planning to buy these up as soon as possible, and I need to be able to afford two. So maybe I have to do a 15-year lease, unfortunately, just so it gets the cost upon order out, so I can buy two right away. Um, it's not a big deal. I mean, 15-year leases aren't advisable because it's going to be so expensive when you look to buy your aircraft fleets up or change them out. But I know I'm going to be flying 757s forever, um, so I don't mind uh, leasing for a longer lease period than is normally ever advisable. So yeah, normally don't ever do such a long lease period. It's kind of an inting play, for lack of a better word. Anyways, let's go ahead and start opening routes now. One perfect thing about 757 is, as you can see, stop there, no stop back, and it works out perfectly. There's demand on the way back, but of course it's much lower, so it kind of works out exactly um, for this kind of range route. And we can go ahead and throw this route on, and perfect. Ooh, one thing I forgot to do here, actually, let's go ahead and close this route. Ah, this is annoying. I forgot to set the turnaround times for 757s. I forgot, I've never made one before. But once again, I think slots are so cheap. Like, how much is a full week of slots? Let's try and make that route again with the proper turnaround time. Where is it? Nope, this is not the right page. I think it was... Yeah, here it is. Dang, that's annoying. Yeah, completely, like, went over my mind. Like, I just didn't think about what I was doing and forgot about the turnaround time. So we can go ahead and uh, close all these routes. And yes, Gander is the best stopover point. And at a certain range, Iqaluit becomes the better stopover point. So like that's kind of a thing to note. I think actually, like I don't think this is a full payload. Like I think it's just shy. Yeah, it's like a few hundred kilograms shy, and you can get a full payload with a different stop. But it's kind of like you have to fly farther. So I've never done the math to figure out which one is better. But I'm so used to just typing in Gander without thinking that I just use Gander. And once the 757s get winglets, anyway, 78,000 for a full week of slots is nothing. Um, in my world, another world, I pay 5 million per set of slots, or 10 million, and that's not an uncommon thing. So very blessed to have these cheap slots. Um, so yeah, basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take the route map of. Oh, I closed it by accident. But let's go there again. I really wish there was like a faster way to get links to certain things you're looking for. Like, if I want to look at an airline, like I have to either look them up or know exactly what airport they're in, and it's just to get a link to the airport because the airport information tab is so outdated and so hard to use and annoying to use. So I usually like get to an airport information tab through an airline, which is kind of funny. Um, yes, the airport information tab is so ugly. I wish they reworked it. So yeah, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like kind of mindlessly spam open some of these, especially the ones where I think there'll be good demand, and see what the demand is like. Um, yeah, I've already checked Birmingham. New Orleans is usually a fantastic demand hub. Yeah, just open up a few of these and see what they look like. If it looks like that, I'll close it. Looks like this, not enough. Not enough. If it looks like, whew, I can pull a little bit of this, but it's not going to move easily with that amount of overswap. I'll leave it open as an option. Um, wow. I can't wait to dig into this because 777 needs to pull about 60% of the demand, so I can supply my 300,000 on my airport, pull half of this, and make plenty of money. Um, wow. I'm drooling at these demand numbers. I can't wait to dig into them, but right now, I'm struggling to find the kind of routes which I really need. So I think I'll go to another resort, which is going to pages which are deeper than I expect other people to go. And because the demand is so high, of course, even in these deep pages, there's just so much demand. I mean, there's no other word. There's no other way to put it. There's just so much demand. I can't wait to take this with 747s or 777s. Probably I'll take it with 747s, um, and make sure I add 777s when my fleet is still relatively small. And then what I'll do is, if the four fleets starting to rack up high costs, I'll look to use 757s to absorb my 747s. So I'll replace my 747s with 777s. And if it turns out that 4 or 5 fleet penalty is not so bad, I'll just fly both simultaneously. Um, I'll fly all the whatever cargo planes I can get off the used market for cheap, and that will be my strategy, and that's not a bad strategy. Um, yeah, I'm just looking for big demand pools here. I mean, like look at this. I'm sure I can pull demand here. I know this because there's 4,000 kilograms of current demand. That means the other airports haven't even taken all the there's some open demand at other airports, which is why there's some open demand still left here. Um, so like I don't even have to check the nearby airports to know I can open this route. I just don't know how good the route is yet. I don't know if I open it if I'm gonna pull two current demand for every one demand I supply, or if I'm gonna get just one to one. I don't know that yet. That I would have to look at. Yeah, I can't read that just based on ratios. Um, I'm not that familiar with Birmingham, and I'm not that familiar with cargo yet. Maybe I'll be there eventually. I can just look at the ratios of any airport and be like, I can pull 2 to 1 demand. I have no idea. So, um, yeah. With that in mind, just go ahead and start opening these routes. I mean, this is a route which I would have to look before I considered opening any route at all. But we'll be doing that with once we get 777s. Uh, what else are we looking at? I need some slightly longer routes. The purpose being slightly longer routes will. Ooh, look at this demand. That is like 150,000 open demand right there. Um, because the ratio is better. Um, like the larger the demand pool is, and then the smaller the amount, the more confusing it gets for me. But when it's a slightly smaller demand pool, like 200,000, and I know the ratio of open demand for Birmingham is about 1 in 9. So if the ratio of current demand to potential demand is 1 in 9, then I know I have a perfect route with no competition. This was the closest route I've seen so far. Why is the return leg demand so poor? Do you see that 3,000 kilograms? Oh, it's because it's just out of range, but it's not worth stopping for another 3,000 kilograms. Um, Especially because I could, not probably, I could eventually change this aircraft for a longer range aircraft, which would need a stop anyway, like a 767, and then having that stop would feel kind of silly. Um, yeah, 1535. Okay. Like I see, like the potential is just so high. It makes me feel like I want to open these routes, but I should wait until I have margins to work with and a larger um, kind of base of profitability. Um, Once I have a really good number of profitable routes, then I won't have to worry at all. I'll just open whatever and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, won't work out. I mean, I'll be moving demand around left and right. Some of the demand I'll be moving away. I'll be moving away from myself, which is going to be pretty funny. But like, I probably won't even notice once I get larger, because cargo is just so profitable, guys. Um, I have 1,800 aircraft, and I'm flying 4 fleets on my other world. Um, that sounds completely arbitrary, but for experienced players, you know that should be suicide for a large airline. But with a cargo airline, it just rides the wave. When the profit margins are high, I guess you become invulnerable to normal logic almost. It's fantastic. And yeah, look at these demand numbers. I can't wait to dig in. This is like your mom just made the best dinner ever, and you're waiting for like the first bite or something. Like, this is what this feels like to me. Um, yeah, I can't wait to get this demand. Maybe go back to the third page. The third page was just as good. Um, oh, Myrtle Beach. I know Myrtle Beach. I can move demand too because I kind of peaked at the other route. So let's do that. I mean, it's not going to be a great route. I'll be able to add like a 767 to it kind of route, but one problem is the curfew. I'm not sure if we'll be able to dodge the curfew. Let's see, 1530. It's like at the very limit of, I think, like we're gonna be taking off as close to 22 as possible, but I have no idea. Please take off before 22. Oh, 22:45, just not enough. um, what about like this? Nope, no demand. 2,500 kilo. That's going to be tough to move. Okay, I think we're going to go to kind of last resorts now and just go deeper into the pages where I know demand will not only move, but it'll move quickly. since there's not a lot of competition. Bellingham. Oh, that's Seattle, I think. Tallahassee. Tallahassee is competing with Pensacola, I believe, actually, and I'm flying to Pensacola. Let's see if they're overlapping yet. Oh wow, Tallahassee and Pensacola are not actually overlapping yet, and the demand is still so high. Wowza, that's amazing. Um, yeah, I wouldn't actually normally know so much about U.S. geography, but I actually lived in Tallahassee for a few months, so yeah, like Pensacola's like just down the road. Um, One of the most amazing places I've been ever, actually. Which is surprising because you look on the internet and you think Florida is like a complete shithole based on the memes and shit and like the news you see about it. But in a lot of ways, it's really not. I mean, I guess it's a lot of that like opinion just comes from being a user of Reddit, which is not really an accurate source of information, but just kind of a funny source of information, um, which is where like the memes and stuff come from. But in reality, one of the nicest places I've ever been, kindest people, um, and yeah, I really enjoyed. Like, I was only there in the winter, in fairness, so I really enjoyed the winter weather because it was like summer weather in Canada, and summer weather in Canada is freaking fantastic. It's not too warm, it's not too hot, it's just not very long. Um, oh, and it doesn't rain, like, which it does way too much in the winter. So yeah, I really enjoy Canada. So, ooh, I have another option. If I can find like a 2,000 nautical mile, 2,500 nautical mile ish range route, I can do a seven route 7 day schedule. So let's do that. Um, let's change focuses here and go look at Asia, and I think Iran is the best source of cargo. And I don't need very much because, of course, 757, um, tiny aircraft. I just need something to round out the schedule. It's not quite enough. Okay, I'm guessing a lot of the. Okay, I don't even know why it's there. Why is there so much passenger demand to Birmingham of all places? But there's pretty decent current demand here. I can pull some. Let's check Tehran. Nope. Tehran's demand is probably being split. Yeah, I could do something like that. What about like Ishfan? Yeah, this is perfect because the other route was slightly too far. I'm gonna start to lose payload. Um, and stopping on a 2,000 nautical mile route feels really silly when your range is 2,500 nautical miles and stopping for just a little bit more cargo is like, should have just picked a longer range plane. Okay, so that's 15, 610, and yeah, it should leave just about enough time for a maintenance check. Perfect. And there we go. That's a full week of scheduling. Right now, it looks kind of strange. I've just been opening routes with no current demand, but in a couple days in real life time, or maybe about a month in game, we'll see big changes to the cargo demand as they're gonna climb up, probably beyond the like. We're gonna get more than we supplied, which is gonna be really nice, and I can't wait for that. But for now, that's all I want to do this episode. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.